Yeah. Thank you, God, for this life. Most people will never experience real power. You know why? Because they don't even know what it looks like. Because they are asleep when it is being built. And most people aren't just asleep in their beds, they are asleep in their systems. And as you're going to learn today, it's not even their house, it's not their rules. So if you're here with me at 4 a.m., you already know. Let's break this down. Success is not just results, it is territory, it is system level authorship. Now, if you're living in a house you don't control, you're not an owner. If you're building a life around rules you didn't write, you are still a tenant. And if you're waking up every day reacting to someone else's blueprint, you're not in dominion. You are in survival. Welcome to Epoch 1, day 84. My house, my rules. Let's get into a concept overview. You're going to love this. Be proud of it. My house, my rules. This ain't just a metaphor. This is doctrine. Your life equals your system equals your house. So I ask you, if God gave you the blueprint, why are you asking the world to approve your construction? The problem isn't that you're building wrong. It's that you're building under someone else's code. System ownership equals full control of internal laws. Until your identity has non-negotiables, until your system has protocols, until your execution has standards you enforce without apology, you don't own anything. You're just renting rhythm in a world that's charging rent on your soul. Are you running the system, or is the system running you? Whose house are you in? Whose rules? Let's get into a visual metaphor. We call this the blueprint and the lease. Imagine two people living in the same house. One paid for it, designed it. Every corner is custom. The other, just renting. Can't paint the walls, can't move the furniture. Got to ask for permission every time they want to upgrade. Now tell me, remove the emotion. Be really real. Be raw and uncooked with yourself. Under those circumstances, who you think is going to move different? Who you think protects the space with pride? Who you think commands instead of complies? That's the difference. That is the difference between owning your system and surviving inside someone else's. This is big for me. It should be big for you. Everyone has a house. Everyone has rules. You either run the system or it runs you. Let me give you personal perspective. And I'm going to be all the way raw and uncooked. I've always been the type of dude that even when I'm influenced, it's still my influence. And my wife said something to me one day I'll never forget. It's 25 plus years. She knows me real good. She said to me, I never really worry about who's around you or what someone might say, because 1,000% of the time, if something's moving, you're the one moving it. Right, wrong, or indifferent. It's always my call. And she's right. I don't borrow direction. I filter it or I filter it. I've always moved alone. Just always been like that. Raised alone, only child. Walked alone, even when I was surrounded by people. My friends, I don't even know if I have any anymore. My circle, they weren't the source of my identity. They were simply a reflection of it. No apologies. You either rocked with me or you didn't. I never wanted to fit in. And it's not like I'm trying to be cool or out of rebellion. I just already had the blueprint. Even when I saw the block hustle, I looked, I saw it. I asked myself, could I run it? If I followed the rules, of course. I got the mind, I got the discipline, but I also got something deeper. I know unequivocally, undoubtedly, and unambiguously how to take ownership and build a system. My house, my rules. I didn't just follow rules, I used them. I used them to teach me how to move, to find the ceiling. And once I found the ceiling, once I found the gaps in the holes, once I knew how I was moving, I just broke through it. Always, same thing I did in business. Never chased titles, never begged for recognition. But I moved in such a way that I became the blueprint others copied. I'm the kind of dude, I'm the kind of man who can learn the system and then run it better than the ones who taught me. It's my gift, unapologetically, and I do it clean. I have laws. I don't front. I don't flex for attention. I carry my system on my sleeve like a spiritual badge of authorship, even with God, especially with God. I learned God for myself. You don't tell me how to find him. I found him on my own. Straight up. I studied the books, the brain, the systems of science. And then I infused it with the divine. This is my style, my movement, my house, my rules. Never needed validation. I've needed vision. Of course, everybody needs vision. And once I had it and I locked in, boom. It's always my house, my rules. We're going to get into the book. This is a 4:08 a.m. on a Tuesday. Super important topic. Even right now, my house, my rules. I influence the influence. We all got to be influenced. How else would you make up how you've been made up today? But even what I do right now, I'm not the only person that gets up at 3. I'm not the only person that has content. I'm not the only person that pushes and promotes. I'm not the only person who lives how I live, but I assure you I live it different. It's just different on me. I wear it different. Just from the perspective of I flow how I flow. I'm unapologetic about my flow and my style. I am locked in to my style. I'm locked into how I wear things. I'm locked into what it means to me. And once it means what it means to me, I move it how I move it. Hear what I'm saying to you. Hear what I'm saying to you. All I need is the vision. What are you seeing? What are you seeing for yourself? Go find the inspiration. Go read the literature. Go understand the text, any text. Consume it, watch it, understand it, absorb it, then move it how you want to move it. My house, my rules. Are you running the system or is the system running you? Are you working on borrowed code? Do you have values that even belong to you? This is deep. And it's not like it's prophetic. This is just the reality to if you want to change something, you want to re-architect your system, you want to make moves, change your code. What are do you want to believe in? How do you want to move? How do you want it to look? How do you want it to feel? Let's go to the book. Let's talk about Jesus in the wilderness. System authorship through isolation. Before Jesus ever performed a miracle, before the crowds followed him, before the system bowed to his authority, he had to go into the wilderness. Alone, hungry, weakened, tested. And during that time, if you didn't know, he was battling the devil himself. Satan didn't tempt him with suffering. He tempted him with control. If you are the Son of God, he said, turn these stones to bread. Feed yourself. You're hungry. When that didn't work, he told him, throw yourself off the cliff. Prove you're protected. Let your God save you. Or how about this? Bow to me, and I'll give you the kingdoms. You want that translated into the really real, the raw and uncooked? Break your system, prove something, take the shortcut. Jesus didn't argue. He ain't scream. He definitely didn't fold. What did he do? He quoted law. He enforced structure. He kept his house in order, even in isolation. That is what it means. My house, my rules. My house, my rules. Let me tell you something that you already know, but might be scared to realize. When pressure hits, the crowd disappears. The devil shows up not when you're weak, but when you're close to ownership. When you're weak, he leaves you alone. He got you where he wants you. Try to own it. And how you respond in isolation determines if you can run the system in the spotlight. You can talk system all day when you got energy, validation, and applause, when it all goes right, when the sun is shining and everything is good and gravy. But can you enforce it when you're alone in the desert? Jesus, the man of all men, God's apparently only son, he did. And the system bowed because of it. What are your rules? Have you even stopped to consider that you're living in a house that is artificial? None of it belongs to you. Have you ever stopped to think that the thoughts you think, none of them could have been yours ever at any time? Have you given thought to your thoughts and how it makes you feel? How do you feel about your life? Is it how you feel, or is it how you've been taught to feel? Understand, I am the influencer of the influence. Go seek the wisdom. Go apply the logic and then make it your own. Are you running the system? Or is the system running you? Are you even aware of what it is to have a system? Do you understand how your system even works? You might be having a system right now that works without your authority, under your full authority. Do you understand what I'm saying? You could have relinquished all control, all rules of your house, that the house just runs without you. It runs amok. It runs astray. It does what it wants to do, irregardless of where you might really want to go. I'm just asking questions. I gave you metaphors. I gave you my perspective. We talked about Jesus, probably the greatest of all the greats. There's 3 levels of system separation. These are the layers that either keep you enslaved to borrowed rules or elevate you into full system ownership. Self. internal clarity, and execution integrity. Ask yourself, do I know the laws that govern my behavior? Am I actually enforcing them when no one's watching? Or am I pretending to be the system while still outsourcing my self worth? This is the mirror level. If you lie here, everything downstream collapses. I can't emphasize this enough. Stop telling me and stop telling you who you are when the lights are on, when you go to post. When there's a gap between who you say you are and who you actually are, who you say you're becoming and who you actually are, that delta, I'm telling you, open your eyes to who you are. You got to live with you. And sometimes you build a house with rules where you front so hard, you disregard who you really are just to put on a show. And when the show's over and when there's no crowd, left alone, you got to sit with that. You got to eat that. The mirror doesn't lie. We've been on the mirror now for like 3-4 days straight. How many masks do you have? And why are they so different? Does the environment dictate who you are, or do you dictate to the environment? What kind of self are you bringing? You're only lying to you. We're talking about the levels of separation. The second is the spirit. Divine alignment over social validation. Ask yourself, is my system rooted in obedience to God or filtered through the opinions of others? Do I let public approval adjust my blueprint? Do I pray for inspiration or do I follow instruction? Most people call it faith when they're just really spiritual freelancing. Do you even have a blueprint? Imagine that you think you need to be who God called you to be, and I adjust my blueprint based on what the social moment tells me. You keep praying. You keep praying to be saved, and the instruction was already given to you. Move in faith. I'll say it every day. Faith don't wait. Do you rule number 2? Doubt deletes the code. Move. Here's the system separation. Structural authority and rule creation. Yo, ask yourself this and answer honestly. Who wrote the rules I'm living by? Do I own the standard or just follow someone else's protocol? Can my execution survive outside of borrowed frameworks? This is the dominion layer. If the system doesn't recognize your voice as law, you are not a creator. You are a contributor. That is worth repeating. If the system doesn't recognize your voice as law, you are not a creator. You are a contributor. Whose voice is in your head? Whose laws are you following? Who has dominion over you? Do you understand what we're talking about here? You're on borrowed time. You're leasing. Your soul is being leased. Your movement is likely not really yours. And I assure you, as I've already said, when you try to front and redirect, your system's going to be like, lies. This is just one of those moments. This is one of those dopamine, inspirational, motivational 15 minutes of fame. It'll pass. And we'll go right back to who we've always been. It's consequences. You know how we flow. 4:20 a.m., the do you rules. From this point forward, the consequences and the how-to follow the SSS model. Self, spirit, system. We start with the consequences of inaction to self. You become a stranger inside your own life. You confuse comfort with control. You lose respect for your own word because your system doesn't recognize it as law. How many start and stops? How many unfinished tasks do you have? How many unrealized dreams have you quit on and canceled? How many moments, days, weeks, months, years of your life have gone by where you no longer can trust your own word outside of the only thing I can trust is that when I say I'm going to do it, it is simply just to say I am doing something that I can ultimately stop doing again. You're addicted to quitting. These are consequences. The second S is spirit. Your disobedience becomes disguised as flexibility, and you start mistaking open-mindedness for open to anything. The spirit loses clarity when the system lacks commandments. You understand that? You start mistaking open-mindedness for open to anything. What's your covenant? I don't need you, and I'll keep enforcing and emphasizing. The book is powerful because it helps you with a framework. I'll tell you what, the inspiration before I started reading the book, outside of I wanted to learn God for myself, and I thought, well, I've been raised Catholic. I went to church for how many Sundays, and even the people who were helping raise me, we never read the Bible. Might as well read the book. Somebody said to me before I read it, don't interpret this as history text. It's a framework, a structure for possibilities. Covenants, commandments, laws, rules. What is the reason? The emphasis behind it. At minimum, it provides clarity. We talked about one priority at a time yesterday. What are your priorities? We talked about the rules of doing you. Why is the root? How do you go from runner to responder to route setter to root source? Before you can elevate yourself, you got to root yourself first. What are you rooted in? When I know what I'm rooted in with my spirit, when I put God first, everything else falls in place. I'm not open to anything. I'm open to receiving everything. But I have limitations on, sorry, this is not allowed in my house. When God is first, I don't fret. I don't worry. It doesn't mean I don't have fear, anxiety, stress, and overwhelm. It's just I understand how to attack that. I have security measures in place, honor and loyalty. That I know, yeah, I can easily be that dude. I'm not. It's choice. I'm open to hearing everything. I'm not open to anything. You don't just allow everything into your house, especially at the spirit level. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? The level of integrity and discipline that comes with my house, my rules, my spirit, what I let in, what I allow inside. Yo, be careful. One of the things in IT I thought that was fascinating, the firewall level, right? I talked to somebody who was in charge of security. He said there's a layer of entry that I allow all information in, including all the malware, all the viruses, all the bad actors. I allow it in. Why? So I can see how they're moving. And then once I see how they're moving, I have my defensives lined up so you only get but so far. My spirit is open to everything, but not open to anything. Why? I watch how everything moves so I can protect my spirit. You don't protect your spirit by fronting like evil doesn't exist. And I don't even believe in the devil. I just understand that people take a track and I know what that influence can do. Like Jesus in the desert. Some of us will fold. Y'all, a question, right? Why do you think I pray? I pray why? Because my spirit is vulnerable. Because it took so long to build my system, I'm still open to attacks. I have to work consciously, massively consciously hard on ensuring I'm protected at all times. So I'm open to everything, but I'm not open to anything. I watch. I give myself clarity. I have a covenant. I have commandments. I have rules. I have laws. I don't break them for nobody. 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 I don't care what it is. I can't. Otherwise, I'm not who I said I am. I don't lie to myself no more. I don't lie to myself no more, not because I can't. I can. I choose not to. We're talking about consequences, the system. When it's not your house, your rules, the world gives you noise instead of reward. You chase instead of attract. You chase instead of attract. You follow instead of build. And the system makes room for someone louder, clearer, and more aligned than you. My biggest fear right now, systems are systeming everywhere. God, universe, the law of attraction, spirit, all these things. You are getting what you give anyway. There's input, there's output. You're receiving regardless. So in that way, you're chasing something, but you're already attracting. You're chasing like you're not worthy. You are. You just haven't learned that for yourself yet. But here's the thing about the system making room for someone louder, clearer, and more aligned than you. I fear greatly that I've already lost too much time in this way, right? That somebody has already gotten ahead of me because they started way before me, and I'm going to watch them get it, and it's going to burn me. So I can't let the system see someone louder, clearer, and more aligned than me. Call it how you want to call it. Spin it how you want to spin it in whatever motivational term, theme, or language that makes sense. I am absolutely terrified by the possibility that someone can be more aligned than me. It's not to compare. It's not to contrast. It's just the reality. The world reacts. My house, my rules. Let's talk about how to take ownership. This is very important. 428. Before we do that, quick chat check. Where you at, chat? Here's how to take ownership for self-spirit system. SSS, right? Self-spirit system. Let's start with the self-fix. Write down your 3 top personal laws or your top 3 personal laws. Not goals, not habits, laws. What does your system refuse to tolerate moving forward? What are your laws for yourself? You know, yesterday, I went to get my physical. Before I went to get my physical, because of who I am, I did some research. And depending on what you look at, I didn't do a lot of validation or scrubbing against it. I didn't do a lot of fact checking, but I just did a quick gloss. They say only, depending on which data source you get, either 40% or only 20% of Americans get their annual physical. And I'm not going to go into the conspiracies about are doctors valuable, medicine. I try my best to stay away from medications. I used to take every night to help with my hangover, right? I'm trying to undo a lot of what I've done. And sometimes you realize you've done so much to your body, especially, you may not be able to come back for it. That's why I talk about, I would love to be a fitness influencer from the perspective of having the physical body. That's not my main priority. And the reality is, the likelihood is it's probably not going to happen for me because that's not my focus. But here's my point. Imagine that we're talking about laws. What's your top 3 personal laws? My physical body is one of them. I can't live without my physical. I said it recently. I don't run to try to win a marathon or beat a record time. I run for my heart. So 20 or 40%, that means 60 or 80% of people don't go to get this system checked by the doctor every year. Say what you want to say. Oh, I feel great. Oh, I feel good. Oh, there's blood work because your system functions at levels you can't see. If you're not getting your system checked just to give yourself a level set, a baseline, a measurement, yo, how's my physical doing? So the likelihood is that you're not even making physical action towards taking care of your body. You don't do anything physically strenuous. You don't take enough steps. You don't push and pump your heart enough. You don't lift anything heavy, and then you don't check on your body. What do you think is happening? So what are your laws? I take care of my physical body, not because it feels good, it feels great, or because I want to post it, but because without it, I don't live. That is one of my laws. I pray every day. It's a law. I do my best to eat as good as possible. More physical law. I journal. I have priorities. I set my intentionality. Yeah, the times you wake up, the things, all those specifics, they work itself out. It's like faith with the bridge. You take a step, the bridge starts forming. But what are your laws? My law is I prioritize myself. I'm not selfish anymore. If for no other reason, my system around me. What would my wife and my children do without me? They still live, but what I'm saying is, how do I limit myself, right? Imagine that you have a family and you're a father. And this is one of the things that hit me. I tried to carry, I think my daughter was 9 or 8, which means my son was 5. I will always carry them together up the stairs to show my, dad is strong. I was like 38, 230 pounds, massively overweight. I couldn't get them up the stairs. And I said, oh, baby girl, baby boy, daddy's old. Bullshit, daddy's weak. Because I didn't have laws. You know what my law was? The booze, the drink, the staying up late, the gaming, the ignoring my home. I'm telling you, because I fear this for everyone. Why? Because, damn, generational curses, where I come from, my culture, my people. Give your children a head start. Give your system that is systeming around you that you had to create, give it a chance. Not goals, not habits, laws. What are your laws? Apply them. Your laws, yours. It'll help keep yourself accountable. Spirit fix. Ask God. Ask God, what do you want enforced in this house? Pray for clarity. Pray for commandment. You hear what I'm telling you? What do you want enforced in this house? One of the things I do when I go through my evolution of prayer, when I'm meditating in prayer, when I'm in stillness, I try to essentially talk to God through visual stimulant, right? In other words, I try to calm my thoughts. I try not to force anything. I try to visualize love and peace and harmony and unity. The reason I do this is because I thought about the book. The book says, God says, let there be light, which implies what? It came from darkness. I said this recently. How would God know light? He received light in a vision through darkness. So I don't know that God even speaks or thinks. God just moves in faith. God saw light. Boom. Let there be light. Point being, as I go through my prayer, when I feel myself settle, when I'm connected, before I get up, I always level set and ask, yo, is there something you need from me? Is there something I'm missing? Is there something I'm not doing? Also ask, how are you doing? But speak to me. Don't just constantly, my opinion, you keep asking and asking and asking and asking and asking. Do you at minimum ask God, well, what do you need from me in order for you to return to me? So if God is investing in me and God is investing in you, what are you investing back to God? Just constantly begging and asking and hoping to be saved? No. Ask, yo, and make some moves. Make some moves. Yo, am I doing this right? Have a give and take. Pray for clarity. Pray for commandment. Have your covenant. Let them know, yo, this is how I'm moving. We good? Level set. System fix. We're talking about the how-to. Audit every role you serve. Home, work, content, health. I don't know why that's so hard, man. Then ask, who wrote the rules I'm following here? If it ain't you, rewrite them today. runners, responders, route setters, root source. The likelihood is that there are some rules you follow to give your identity a measure of success, but they aren't scaled. That was my experience. The easiest thing we could do is have our rules aligned in a way where it doesn't matter what mask I put on. I already expressed and explained, I might have either in my head or maybe I haven't said it out loud. I am the same, and I wasn't always this way. I am the same person at home that I am at work, that I am when I create content, that I am when I'm alone with God or alone, period. Hard to do. But it helps me in this way. I don't have to guess. I have rules. I have infrastructure. I have a system. I just move my system into my role. Obviously, contextually, I can't speak to my employees who work with me, for me, and who I report up and down to, upstream and downstream, the same way I would my son, my daughter, my wife. I'm dad. I'm husband. So there's some, again, contextually, how I wrap that conversation and how I behave, the energy that I release. But it doesn't deviate much from who I am as a professional, who I am as a content creator, who I am with my body, who I am when I talk to God. I follow the infrastructure, the rules. I keep them. I apply them. Why? I wrote them. And when I write them, also, it gives me full autonomy. Don't you want autonomy over your life? Don't you want authority? How could you have authority over your house, over your life, if it ain't your house? Why are you living, paying rent in someone else's house with your life? I'm going to give you a challenge for today. Our challenges, I think now 2 or 3 days. We follow the ARR format. Audit, replace, report. This will help. Helps me. Audit. Where in your life are you still following rented rules? Which systems have no clear laws? Right? Think about that question. Audit it. In every area you're able to audit your life, right? Your physical, your mental, your spiritual, your relational experiences. How are you letting people speak to you? How are you speaking to people? Who are you giving your time to? Who's giving time to you? What are your commitments? What are your priorities? What are you thinking? What are you emphasizing? What are you moving towards directionally? Audit. Then we replace. Write down 3 non-negotiable commandments for your system. Example. I do not explain obedience to people who don't carry my vision. I do not explain obedience to people who don't carry my vision. I don't need to explain nothing. Explain. I don't need to explain nothing to nobody. You're going to put some respect on my name. What are 3 non-negotiable commandments for your system? I move when I say move. I live how I want to live. I don't need external validation. I don't need your time. I don't need to give you my time. I am conscious of my time. I am conscious of my consciousness. I am conscious of how I structure my life. I follow a schedule. I push towards a level of virtuousness. I have rules: God, faith, honor, loyalty. What are you honorable to? Are you doing what you said you would do, where you said you would do it, how you said you would do it? Are you showing up for yourself? And are you loyal to that commitment? Do you not deviate and waver depending on the pressure? Do you put more pressure on yourself than you could ever allow anyone else to apply? Are you in the desert alone, and can you survive? Then we report back. We audit, we replace, we report. Post one law publicly or share it privately with somebody in your system, including God, including yourself. You don't need approval, you need enforcement. Hold yourself accountable. Write these things down or do it in your head. You know how you move, you know how you learn. But if you're not reporting on it, it's not measurable. If it's not measurable, it's not tangible. If it's not tangible, it doesn't exist. I don't understand how you move your system forward if your system's unable to measure where it was, where it is, and where it's going. Why do you think time is if you're going to make time relevant, how do you think it is? We're so focused, past, present, future. You're in a loop, running in a circle. If you don't have measurable actions, if you don't report on it, if you don't track it, document yourself. Is that out of the realm of possibilities? Do you not believe you should document how you're moving? How are you moving physically? How are you moving financially? How are you moving in your career? How are you moving in your relationships? How do these things fracture for us and break? Because we're just repeating what we are doing over and over without measuring. Yo, is this working for me? If it is, repeat it and evolve it. Don't just keep it that's why we have levels. Runner, responder, route setter, route. And then remember, you can be a route runner in that once you reach route, you're just a novice at it. There's so many levels to go. God is infinite. And in that way, you can never stop being expansive. My house, my rules. Ooh. Before you move today, my beautifully blessed people, before you move today, ask yourself, is this my house or am I just crashing here? Am I building a legacy or just paying rent in someone else's system? If your system doesn't recognize your voice as law, you're already being evicted. Own the system or be erased by it. You either run the system or the system runs you. Change your mind, change your life. I am who I say I am. Do you and stay rich.